Hey everybody. So I've never done a video before, but I'm going to give it a shot. Um, so what I want to talk about at this moment today is about moments in life where you end up feeling that fluctuation between perhaps I feel so good and so alive and so on fire, like that star energy inside of you is just beaming, booming, bursting, whatever, and how you hit those drops, those plummets of struggle, heaviness, despair, whatever. Um, I appreciate. So I live in Olympia, Washington, and I really appreciate how active and yet slow it is, because that slowness gives me the opportunity to really look inside, to observe myself, to see the little ticking mechanisms and gears um, in my personal, in my machine, in my self. Um, and so I've noticed, and it's still hard. I go around and I smile, because there was a point where I realized that, why not smile? Like, it feels really good. It's how I want to be, and not smiling just doesn't feel as good. And so why would I want to be that way? It's not like, don't smile, or I mean smile all the time, because part of being honest is allowing yourself to feel and and express and let your inner workings, well, work themselves out. And you start to notice too that by allowing yourself to feel sad, to see that weight, that heaviness, to let it come forth, and be present with it, that sometimes the weight's relieved, or you become grateful and appreciative for where you are in your life and what you have in it. And it can make you even happier, because it's just like, wow, like, that was heavy, and yet that heaviness makes you stronger. It really does. Strength of heart and being and character, and really does add to the beauty too. Because, like, I think about it where, if I'm gonna be I'm gonna be angry or sad, to find the beauty in it, because we come from this natural world, and the natural world is beautiful. We admire it so much as human beings that, we want it. We want to see it all the time, every day, and we want to take it home with us. And I feel like ultimately we want to reflect that beauty. We want to be that beauty that we see in the world around us and in the natural world. And so, um, bear with me if I don't look at the camera all the time. Uh, it gets a little distracting. But yeah, so we want to look and be beautiful, because we are nature, and nature is full of growth, destruction, death, sadness, happiness, and joy. And also we grow, from a tiny being, conscious being, through the stages of that fresh growth, that joy, that playfulness, that spring, that lively, frolicking child energy. And as we grow, we almost start to feel the layers, like we end up becoming like a young sapling to then become like a great oak or something, or and so we get tougher on the outside, we mature, we get stronger. But it's also important to, at the same time as you expand outward, connect inward, figure out those feelings. What I was trying to say earlier too is that what was I saying? Um, I'll restart where I was. So you want to be like a sapling at the same time as you get older. So working inward because you want to be both strong and durable and be able to handle the intensities and the changes and the currents and the winds of the world and the chaos at the same time as you want to be, that youth, that young, that bend, that bow, that flex, but so you got to find that balance. And so working inward, finding that inner child, that joy, that play. When I was talking about the gears and the mechanisms earlier, was that like you get that chance to look in and realize that some of this struggle and this challenge are these different things that get in the way of who you currently want to be, who you currently are, of letting that energy out. Because if you don't go inward to find that that joyful child, you get too tough and too rigid, and so when you bend, you snap and you break. And so what I've noticed is that when dealing with this heaviness, this intensity, that what it ends up being are all these things that are blocking that flow, that flow of that youthfulness, that flow of that young, that source energy. And it can be really hard, really, really hard. As you've grown up in this world, as I've grown up in this world, everything that I've come in contact with, the things that are stressful in particular, things that I remember and things that I don't remember, have caused some sort of they've imprinted. It's become another gear or cog or whatever in my work. And as I start to figure out who I want to be, how I feel, my natural, reflection of nature. A lot of people are open into, think about sacred geometry, the Fibonacci sequence, and it's just like, if that is the world, if that's what we're all made up of and all built of, then really everything's under control, everything's got it. But the thing is that everything's not under control if we reflect a system that ultimately is not reflecting that sequence. So that's what brings me back to the whole wanting to reflect the beauty of nature, because that's where we see it most of all, as opposed to reflecting what we see in the human world a lot, or society, or whatever it's called. I don't care too much for the words right now. I'm kind of more of a person of feeling and thought. But so I may have kind of sidetracked a little bit. So like I said, the first time I'm doing this. So getting a chance to see your inner workings, your inner mechanisms, and move them as best you can, always building a good solid foundation of joy and positivity, and like whatever it is that you see that you find beautiful, finding that in yourself and wanting to reflect that, and putting little steps forward, and putting the work um, out there, getting it, doing it, so that way you can build yourself in that image of what it is that you see, that you care about so much, that you want to be. Hold on, there we go. Also, I'm looking at picture of myself, and that gets very distracting. Um, so yeah, dealing with these intense waves, these fluctuations, very uncomfortable, very unpleasant. Thankfully, I have made an effort to work towards finding my happiness, choosing to focus on the beauty that I've always felt in myself and that I see in the world around me, choosing to see the world and imagine it, envision it the way that I feel that I want to. So the feelings that I feel best with, letting those come out through the way I imagine, the way I see, and projecting that upon the world, but also like through my movement and through my actions as well as I can, because I'm still dealing with those past challenges and struggles. Because there are moments where it's like, everything feels so good. Yeah, it doesn't exist. It's all gone. And then you kind of you crash. You're like, oh no, I'm fucked up. I'm flawed. I'm broken. And they're both true. They both exist. But the thing is that, as much as I will keep hitting those waves, and it's important, not just for myself, but to understand it, observe it, to then communicate and share that with other people, because we all learn from each other. We get sick, but then we share the cures with each other. And so, we go into the labyrinth and we're like, whoa, this is crazy, this is new, this is dangerous even, or confusing, and get lost. Then you figure it out and you find your way, and now you're like, yo, hey, you're in the labyrinth, and I see, and I've been, it seems to have, your labyrinth seems to have a similar, design as mine, perhaps. Here's what I did to work my way through it and work my way out of it. And you share that with others, and, we lend a hand, because we are, to a certain degree, we are an extension of each other. I am me, but I am you. You are me. And we reflect each other, and we are doing the best we can to lend a hand. That's why it's like, good to work through yourself and figure out like what's in my way. How do I think? How do I feel? And how does that are these thoughts and feelings, as much as we do pick them up from the world around us, like are they mine? Are they genuine? Or are they impulsive? Are they are they are they a trigger? Are they being triggered? um am I thinking clearly, thinking first, having done research in myself? Or have am I just jumping irrationally and being like, oh, this is what's going on, I know all about it? Where it's very vague, or where you generalize. Anyways, might have sidetracked, but I feel like within all of us we have a stable core. It's that core that will always be true and always stand strong. It's full of strength, love, kindness, whatever. Maybe everybody's is different, but maybe that's just the way we perceive it. We perceive it differently. But either way, we have this solid core, and from that center, we need to work our way outward. We also spend most of our time seeing on the outside of ourselves, so we also need to work inward. We need to figure out what are the blocks, what's in the way. Traumas, perspectives that we have, judgments where it's just like, we are influenced by the media. We are influenced by the people around us, our social scenarios and situations. We're also actors and actresses, and we're playing, we're having a good time. But at the same time, it's really important to clear, be present, and be real. It's scary. For me, sometimes I feel like, oh man, you're way too present. Or maybe I could be completely wrong. I'm still learning about it, but it's like maybe I'm afraid that a certain perceived realness that I find in myself is boring, is dull, is quiet, is so calm. It's like you become so much of an observer and so still and silent that you feel like you're nothingness. And that scares me. But it does create a good foundation, that stillness. Because it provides you with the opportunity with that stillness to hear, to listen with your feelings, even, because I mean, like, everything is feeling. It's an experience that is a sensation, and we feel emotions, physical feeling. It's all interconnected, and it's important to feel. To feel is to listen. To feel is to be aware. To feel is to feel is to know. Um, and most of the world around us, hell, you're walking on the street, cars zipping by, it's chaotic. It distracts you, it distracts me, and usually that's why I listen to music, which is also distracting me, but it's in a way that I can kind of control and play out my imagination and move and dance and everything. But all in all, we are so bombarded with so many things and so overstimulated, and I even personally end up choosing to do it myself, but through my actions I'm learning to work my way out, because it's so chaotic that I can't listen to anything. I can't hear the way my body works. I'm not listening to my organs and the way they're telling me, like, what they need, what they don't need, the organisms that live in there, everything. I got to be able to, like, to feel, to listen, like I said, to my the chemicals that get received by my brain and released by my brain, and the signals. It's just like there's a whole universe that is a part of this body, as much as I know it. Knowing and doing are kind of two different things. So it's connected, where whether listening to what's going on in the body, which also holds a lot of your past. It holds a lot of what's gone on in your life, which then is those blocks. We want to move our way back to being a child, to finding that that kid, that closer to the source part of ourselves, at least. Like, of course, like, I can only speak for myself. That's what I'm working towards. So simultaneously, while doing that, I went from being a kid, where I'm at now, and at the same time as now I'm, like, going back, as much. So there's a lot of chaos, a lot of pain, hurt, frustration, fear, all these things that I absorbed and ingrained in myself, were ingrained in me through other people, condition, whatever. And while all that has happened and it's in my system, I'm moving backwards towards my source, towards purity, so to speak. Not like purity, but to a moment in my life where I was clear and present, and had little influence and conditioning than I do now. Whether it's social, parental, personal, whatever, kind of conditioning. And so I am moving backwards, having to clear that stuff up, which, as I clear that up and I get to my source, I'm also still in the present, moving forward, moving now inward, all around, expanding. There we go. So yeah, so by going both backwards while you're moving forward, so to speak, you are able to clear up all that has gone on within you and is going on within you. All those waves pinging back and forth, just rattling you up and rattling you around. Which, for me, back to the beginning, it's like, what I was saying was that that ends up being that chaos. That ends up being that scared, that fear, that, oh my God, I'm losing it. And really, I'm not losing it, to be honest. As hard as it is, as much as I'm going to keep telling myself that, I'm not losing it. I'm finding it. But I only find it if I allow myself to find it. If I keep being clear, especially with moments of clarity of like where I'm moving towards, what I'm looking for in my life, what I need, and what I want. Learning to listen to my heart and take care of it, find other wonderful, beautiful people who are a reflection of that, and teach me not to judge myself so much, because that ends up being one of the hardest things, self-judgment, because it's you who you're always with, it's me who I'm always with, but that me also ends up being voices, thoughts in the mind that bounce back and forth, that uncontrolled, very much like you sit in front of a TV or someone puts you in front of a TV or some sort of device that keeps projecting things at you and you can't control it because you didn't design it, and you become a reflection of what you didn't design and what you're what you're not in control of, and you start to almost kind of become that, and then we get to that point where we think we're in control, we think we control ourselves, and we are who we are, but we think we are what we have designed ourselves to be. And from my experience, that isn't exactly true. We are still influenced by things that we have yet to take a look at more closely and realize, like, did I design that? Did somebody else design that? Did I choose to accept that wholeheartedly? Does that, truly match who I am? And then having to look further and realize, like, is the lens that I'm looking through to observe this, is that mine? Did I design that lens to look at this? And then you have to, like, break down the layers of, like, what am I looking through? Whose perspective have I picked up in my life that I'm using, or, like, through my genes even. Anyways, I'm gonna wrap it up. I never talked for this long or done this, and it's really good. And I actually feel a bit better, and anyways. Things are hard. Things are really hard. They're gonna keep being hard. It's part of what we do. We're cleaning up our messes. Cleaning up your messy room. I'm grateful to have a room because it gives me that reflection of myself, how I act, how I react, how I respond in days, every day, every moment, how I treat my space, how I treat myself, not beat myself up too much, allow it to teach me and guide me, start to feel what I want to feel, how I want to be. Feeling is a great way to start. Feeling fuels the fire in the heart house, the heart lighthouse that will send out the beam of desire, of what we want, of what we as clearly as we can, what we feel like we need, and it sends it out and starts to guide it to us, guides that ship with all those resources and all those wonderful people or whatever. It's there's infinite possibilities, but we won't necessarily get everything, but that's because we don't necessarily need everything. We do have what we need. We just gotta learn to use it. So I'm happy to share this video and share a bit of myself. And yeah, just keep smiling because it makes me happy. And it feels good to share that happiness and the smile with people, because I also don't feel like a lot of people smile. I realized too, at one point in my life, I'm going to give what I can, So, anyways, love you all. Much love. Hope you have a beautiful day, beautiful night, or not. But get out of your head into your heart. Much love. Take care.